Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe at home. So guys, today we're going to be talking about a very interesting succulent called as Senecio blue chalk sticks. Now guys, there are a couple of succulents under the name of Senecio, but the ones that we're talking today are the chalk sticks or the blue chalk sticks. Now guys, apart from the blue chalk sticks, there is another Senecio which is green in color, which I will be putting up the picture because I just have one variety of Senecio, and that is the narrow leaf blue chalk stick. However, there are a lot of different varieties. Again, it depends upon the color and the size of those chalk sticks. Some of these chalk sticks are a little bit thicker and some are green in color. Depending upon these, that's how they have been named. Again, there are a lot of cultivars and hybrids that have been coming up in the market. So you don't have to be worried whether the leaves are green in color or whether the leaves are thicker. It's absolutely fine. The care requirement would remain pretty much the same. The only thing is that if the leaves are more green, then you'll have to provide it with indirect bright light. Now, these guys will do well in indirect bright light as well as direct morning sunlight, but ensure you do not expose them to strong afternoon sunlight. So let's first understand the environment and growing conditions of Senecio blue chalk sticks. Now guys, this picture was taken from casabio.org. The observer of this succulent was David Evans. Now, just by looking at this picture, you will be able to understand a lot about their environment. You can see, as we have spoken about this earlier as well, a lot of succulents in their natural habitat tends to either grow on rocks or in the cavities. Now guys, if you look at this picture, the overall environment, what you can make out from this picture tends to look like it's very dry, arid, and doesn't look like there is any source of water nearby. But still, you can see that the succulent is doing absolutely fine in this kind of habitat. Probably it is absorbing moisture from the air or some way or the other, but you can see that it's doing absolutely fine. And also, if you notice that this is a very mountainous area, this is what I can get from this picture, that it looks like it's a very mountainous area, and probably there is not much organic matter as well, because I don't even see much soil. It looks like it's just growing probably with little bit of soil that might have been present in between those cavities. So this is the kind of environment that you would want to replicate when you're growing succulents. Now definitely you cannot bring in those huge rocks and put in your succulents, so that is why whenever we prepare our soil mix, I always advise you not to use a lot of organic matter in your soil. Do not use a soil that tends to retain a lot of moisture. So with this picture, you will be getting a clear idea about the entire growing conditions of this succulent. So that brings us to the next question: when to water the blue chalk sticks. Now guys, as you can see over here, my succulent was not watered for a really long time, and you can see that it's again severely dehydrated. As you can see, there are a couple of wrinkles on the leaves and the leaves don't look very plump. I will show you a video of how they look when they are well hydrated. So let's talk about this little guy over here. Now guys, an important thing to remember: if you belong to a place that's very warm and humid, then you do not want to underwater your Senecio blue chalk sticks, because there can be a high risk of dry rot. So you need to have a proper watering schedule. You need to ensure that you do not overwater or you do not underwater it too much. You might have heard this term very often, saying that underwatering is better than overwatering. Yes, underwatering is better than overwatering, but if it's an excess amount of underwatering, then that can also be a problem. And just like overwatering, wherein your succulent can get rotted because of overwatering, even in underwatering, there is a high chance that your succulent might get a dry rot. Now, this is very common in places which are very warm and humid at the same time. There is a high risk that if you underwater your succulents and you push the succulent to a limit where it is completely underwatered, there is a high risk that your succulent will get dry rot. I started with watering my succulent. As you can see, my succulent was very dehydrated, which means that the soil was very dry. So you can see the amount of water that I'm using, and it's quickly getting absorbed in the soil. Now guys, the soil has to be well draining, it has to be porous, it has to be loose. The more gritty the soil is, the much better, because gritty soil tends to replicate or resemble a lot like what mountainous soil would be. Again, mountainous soil does not have a lot of organic matter, so you need to keep that thing in mind as well. So guys, here as you can see, now the entire soil is wet. So I've done a complete watering, which means I have watered until the water starts to pass through the drain hole. So whenever you have a dehydrated succulent like this, which you have not watered for a really long time, do a complete watering until the water starts passing through the drain hole. So now I'm going to leave this as it is. It will take couple of hours, maybe 24 to 48 hours, and the succulent leaves will get plump. So this is an example of how a well hydrated blue chalk stick looks like. You can see the leaves over here are much full. There are no wrinkles. You can see they look much more plump because they are well hydrated. So if you have your blue chalk sticks that look like this indicates that they have enough water in their leaves and you do not need to water them more. So now that we have spoken about the watering, we have spoken about the soil, let's understand how to multiply blue chalk sticks. Now guys, it's very easy to multiply blue chalk sticks and it tends to grow really fast. Now here I have this mother plant that I had potted I think a year back, and you can see it has stretched a lot because initially it was not receiving a lot of light, and all these small tiny blue chalk sticks that you see are not cuttings, but these are the pups of this mother plant. So she was stretched so much that she ended up getting heavy on the crown and then landed into another pot, and you can see the new pups have started to show up on the stem that was once stretched, because now she is receiving a lot of light. But you can see the amount of stretch. So ensure guys you provide them with good indirect bright light or direct morning sunlight. Now guys, you can see this has stretched so much, so I'll be going ahead and doing a beheading for this little guy. I will also show you what exactly is going to happen after you behead the succulent. So beheading is just the same that we do for other succulents like Echuarias, Graptoverias or Graptopetalum sedums. The type of beheading that we do, we will be doing the same beheading. So now that we have gone ahead and chopped off the stem, now I will show you another important thing. Now this part is where the pups will start to grow around the cut and not on the cut. Like the cutting that we have over here, this looks like one straight growing succulent, but that's not going to be the case with the stem that we just cut. So if you're expecting the remaining part of the stem to look like this, that's not going to happen guys, because when you have done the cutting, the cut part that you see, the pups will be growing around the cut, but you will not be getting the succulent that will be growing right in the center. So for that I will be showing you this blue chalk stick was beheaded couple of months back, and here you will be able to see this is where the stem cutting was done, and you can see now the pups are growing around it and not on it. So if you're a kind of a person who does not like the succulents look like this, then please do not cut or do not do a stem cutting, because this is ideally how the growth on the stem cutting will look like. So the original cutting where you have done, there won't be any new growth, but the new pups or the new growth will be around the cuttings. The stem cuttings that I had done from this succulent, I had potted them in this pot, so you can see how well they have been growing. So guys, it's very easy to propagate or multiply your blue chalk sticks. It's very easy. Here again, as you can see, the smallest one as well that I had done a stem cutting, even that one is getting a new pup. Again, once those pups also reach a decent size, you can cut them and then plant them in individual pots, and you're gonna have a completely new arrangement of blue chalk sticks. Now if you're thinking that I'm just talking about stem cutting, what about leaf propagation? Now guys, leaf propagation is also possible with blue chalk sticks, but the issue is it's very difficult and tricky to get those leaves from the blue chalk stick. It's not as easy as collecting leaves from Echeverrias, Graptosedums or Graptopelaums. This is quite tricky because a lot of time what happens is that when you try to take the leaf, most of the time the leaf tends to break from the stem. Like here, as you can see, this leaf was not properly plucked from the stalk of blue chalk sticks. So you can see the leaf is incorrectly cut, the edges are not very smooth. So those are the leaves that will not propagate. And apart from that, guys, as you all know, I'm sure you have been doing leaf propagation, you know leaf propagation takes so much of time. So it's better to go for a stem cutting because that's much faster. They also tend to root faster and you have a completely new plant. So I would always prefer you guys to go with stem cuttings rather than leaf propagation. But again, leaf propagation is also possible, but I would suggest go for a stem cutting, that is much faster. If you're wondering why are they called as blue chalk sticks and not just blue sticks, now guys, that's because they have a chalky kind of coating on them. Now what this coating is, it's called as Farina. Now guys, Farina is extremely important for succulents. It works like sunscreen. Now if you do not know what Farina is and you are growing succulents, it's something very important you should know. So I have a video on Farina. I'll put the link in the description below. You can check it out. Now guys, over here I will show you what happens when you touch the Farina. Now you can see as soon as I touch the Farina, it got disturbed and it's vanished from the leaf. Now guys, once the Farina is disturbed or once it's gone off the leaf, it will not come back on the leaf again. And this is something that is very important because Farina tends to protect the succulent from harsh sunlight. Once it's gone off the leaf, it's not going to come back, and now this leaf is going to be exposed to direct sunlight. So there could be a possible sunburn because the sunscreen, that is the Farina, is gone missing from the leaf. Talking about dormancy and non-dormancy, Senecios go dormant during the summer months, and during the winter months they get into their active growing period. So if you're a kind of a person who adds or uses fertilizers, you would want to add fertilizers only during the active growing period, which is the winter season. Now guys, ensure that you do not over fertilize your Senecios because you have just seen the picture of the natural habitat. If you do not want to add any fertilizers, it's absolutely fine. The succulent will still do okay. But in case if you want to add any fertilizers, ensure that you go for a liquid based fertilizer. Always cut down on the dosage and dilute in water before providing it to your succulents. Talking about pest attack, yes, mealybugs tend to attack Senecios quite often. So you might want to do a routine check every now and then. Especially they tend to hide in the crown area or under the leaves. If you happen to notice them, then you can either use cinnamon powder or you can use any organic solution that you have been using. So guys, I hope that this video on Senecio blue chalk stick was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep propagating.